All right, well, welcome back to Exhaust Sports Auto. My name is Kevin, and we are once again back at Cary Imports to do a review on a pretty special car, at least to most people, and that is the Tesla Model S, the 2013 model, the P85 essentially. This is the performance model. Just to give you some context, I actually have driven a P100D Tesla, like the brand new one. That is to this day the fastest and the most expensive car I've driven. Here we are in the P85. I didn't get to do a review on the P100D because it was at like a Tesla dealership, so I was only able to just drive it essentially. This is back when I had like the Stinger. Let's just get on the road and we'll talk more there because it's a pretty interesting car. The owners here kind of know how I feel about this vehicle. Everybody seems to love this car, and I guess I should say right off the bat that this car does do a lot of things right. And obviously people just keep going on and on about the infrastructure, of course. Yes, that's very impressive for sure. And that's why he is a billionaire, of course, Elon Musk, because he's thinking infrastructure-wise, not just car-wise. But no matter, I'm not here to talk about any of that, stuff. I'm just here to drive the car and see how it feels. Yeah, first impressions, second impressions. This is an older Tesla, and I haven't driven one of these older ones before. Only that P100D is the only Tesla I've driven. Get used to the brakes. That's the first thing you should get used to, because you need to get in on those things, or else you're just going to rear end the person in front of you. Yeah, it is a Tesla, so expect ballistic levels of acceleration, of course. Okay, I don't even know where to begin with this thing. I'll be honest, I drove the P100D. I wasn't super ecstatic about it. Yes, it's the fastest car. Yes, it was like Bugatti slaying levels of performance, and this is no slouch. 416 horsepower, like I believe 433 pounds-feet of torque. This is before that Bugatti slaying era of Teslas, but this was still fast as hell. I'm gonna leave all the spec sheet information here because this is very much a spec sheet vehicle. So that's why people love this thing, and you can't talk about this car without talking specs. So 0 to 60, 4 seconds. This thing does weigh 5,000 pounds though. There are some new full-size pickup trucks that actually weigh less than this Tesla. So something to keep in mind, but I guess it doesn't matter because this thing has ballistic levels of speed. Yeah, I don't even know what you would do with this car. It is just instantaneously you reach every single speed limit ever. So it's got that going for it. But as I'm sitting in this vehicle and just driving around in it, it does everything so well. It's got that all aluminum body. Despite the 5,000 pound curb weight, all of it is down low. The center of gravity is low because of that battery pack, right? It's all the way down to the bottom there. And because of that, it's really nice and balanced. Because it's a larger vehicle, the wheelbase is kind of longer. It actually rides pretty decently. So it kind of does everything. It goes, it handles, it rides pretty good. It's a proper luxury car. And when you look inside here, this interior space, it is just so much room in here, for passengers and for, this thing has like 3 trunks. I'm going to show you that in a bit, but this thing is so damn practical. It does everything. So why is it that when I drove the P100D, I just wasn't feeling it? Why was that? It just, I hate to say this, but this thing has like zero soul whatsoever. It's just kind of like a machine that just does its thing and it just stays parked in the house. And then when you need it again, it's there. There's nothing wrong with that. That's all a car is. But when you've driven other vehicles where there's just a certain feeling that you get out of certain cars, like that Lexus IS350 I drove, right? It actually had something to it. It was a very special feeling car. This, it's just a ballistically nice car. Here, this is where everybody wants to see it. Well, there you go. Just broke every law right there. That was a speed that I don't want to disclose. But anyway, that was, that of course, that's going to absolutely eradicate every single really sports car. This isn't a P100D, but this will absolutely decimate that little BMW in front of me. Everything. No matter what you throw at it, this is going to beat it off the line. I will say I actually do like driving this older Tesla more than the new Tesla because I feel like what they try to do in the new Tesla was, here, I'll put the steering in sport mode. They tried to mimic BMW M steering, and that just absolutely failed. I do not like the way BMW M steering feels. It is so synthetic, it is so fake. Hate that. This, however, even in the sport mode, you know, it's a very natural, like kind of lightweight steering, complete opposite of what I felt in the new Tesla, and just because of that alone, I like driving this better. The only thing I hate about this is the brakes. I don't know what it is with these brakes. You really need to get into them just an unnatural amount. You know, I don't mind a progressive brake pedal, but this is not that. This is almost like you don't have enough stopping power is almost what it feels like until you get deep into the pedal. I'm kind of getting used to it now, and you know, that power obviously gives you just effortless passing power. I'm curious to see how the Model 3 feels, because this, I don't really mind this as much. You know, many car people anyway, will kind of be disappointed by like the lack of noise, I guess, because it has no engine, right? No exhaust note, none of that. I mean, if you just want a straight up luxury car, I feel like this does genuinely do a pretty good job. I really wanted to check this thing out because it has 75,000 miles, and I wanted to see just how well it was holding up. And you know, when you touch up against things, it does kind of creak a little bit, but like the vehicle itself is solid as hell, I can't lie. It doesn't feel like a hoopty, basically. It actually feels like a pretty solid car, no creaks and rattles when I go over bumps. There is a bit more wind noise than I had anticipated with this vehicle. And because there's kind of no engine, I mean, like things like wind noise and, you know, tire noise, that kind of comes through more. But I would argue that if you have some music playing or if you have like the air conditioning going, it won't be quite as bad. I would say the only thing that I don't really like about this car is the brakes. Otherwise, I actually don't mind the way that this older Tesla drives. It doesn't have the ballistic amount of power that the P100D had. You know, when I accelerated in the P100D, you know, my vision legitimately blurred. I mean, that thing was like supercar fast. This isn't quite like that, but you know, it is still extremely fast for sure, especially off the line. It's definitely more than enough for most people, but the chassis is so good, you don't really feel the speed all too much. I don't know, I guess I'm just not jaded by power like that. Yeah, this is like fast as hell, but I don't feel anything really. And mind you, this thing does have a solid chassis. This whole body is aluminum. You know, they did do a good job. This is actually a well executed vehicle. And this is one of the earlier Teslas too, so that does say a lot. I never had any like real complaints there. Now let's, I guess, get into some of that interior stuff, because that's a little bit more, well, it's kind of barren, I guess you could say. There's not a lot going on here, and I hope you like screens, because you get 2 of them, and they're not small either. So every single solitary thing is controlled with the screen. There's actually nothing going on with this cabin space whatsoever. It's totally barren. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to go for that like minimalistic approach, and that's cool. That's fine. They kind of pulled it off. It's not too hard to pull off, I guess. You just put this big ass tablet in the middle, and there you go. Even the steering wheel, there's only like 2 real controls. Like, you got this little like center display here. You do have some controls for basic functions, but not everything. Everything is still handled through the screen. You know, obviously, you know, this turning circle was absolutely excellent. That was fantastic, actually. Easy car to drive. You know, it's easy to place on the road, even though it's like kind of a mid-size, almost like full-size luxury vehicle. It's very easy to drive. Is this thing like rear-wheel drive? I think this thing might actually be rear-wheel drive. But anyway, back to the interior. For your gauge cluster, you obviously do not have physical gauges. You obviously have a digital display here, and you have some controls for basic things like your, you know, the brightness of the screen, which, you know, in really harsh sunlight, kind of like what I'm in right now, it doesn't do the best job. There's a bit of glare actually on the screen, so it could be harder to see in certain light. But you know, you can operate like a few things, like, you know, sunroof and your calls, your music, stuff like that. So not too bad, but again, everything is really handled here. But the good thing is the screen does react pretty well. It's pretty quick to respond even to this day, but all the climate control stuff, of course, is handled through this. So it can make driving a little bit distracted, but again, if you were serious about buying this car, I would spend like, you know, an hour or 2 just sitting in this vehicle and just studying everything. And that way you're just, you know, when you're on the move, you just know where everything is. Some people might like that, some people might hate it. I feel like most people will like it though, just on, at least by looks anyway. Again, practicality is phenomenal. I could sit behind myself. And like I mentioned, this thing's got like 3 trunks. Like, it's got a hatchback, which is amazing. And when you lift the thing up, there is no spare tire. So you got like essentially a second trunk. And obviously you got a trunk in the front. So pretty awesome if you ask me. I do appreciate those things, you know, practicality wise. Driving wise, I mean, I was not expecting to say this, but I actually like driving this. I have more feel driving this than I did like the newer Tesla. Again, my only complaint is those brakes. Otherwise, driving it, despite its like gargantuan speed, it never really gets away from me. You know, I know what speed I'm essentially doing because there's no real engine noise. You kind of just get an idea of the speed that you're going at because of the tire noise, the wind noise, stuff like that. It doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really genuinely feel like a luxury car. It's a well-executed vehicle. They did do a good job of it as a whole. Now, if you bought this thing, what are you going to do with it? A cop just passed by me. I'd be looking at the rear view mirror, the side mirrors all the time, looking out for the law because this thing is going to absolutely eradicate everything. Sorry that you didn't get to see any like, you know, ridiculous like reactions or whatever. I don't do that. I will say this, when I had the P100D, every time I floored it, the guy next to me, right, like the Tesla rep or whatever, his head would just keep like banging up against the the headrest. I guess it's like worse for passengers because you don't know what's going on, kind of. But I'm the driver, I know when I'm gonna peg it, so it doesn't really, you know, affect me too much. But it's electric power. You obviously get, you know, up and going easily. You know, this interior space is held up really well. It's got like this vegan leather. I don't know what this thing is, but you know, whatever it is, this fake leather, it's held up pretty good. Slight wrinkling, and it's got like this kind of suede inserts and stuff. That's why it looks a little dirty, but it's actually not. These seats are actually like really clean, actually. So I appreciate that. That's held up pretty good. But aside from the environmental impact, you're looking at this vehicle because you like Elon and you like the fact that this will destroy most sports cars. You're going to buy this for the spec sheets. Now, will you be happy owning this in the long term? Depending on who you are, what you value, yeah, I think certain people will actually enjoy owning this thing long term. I've heard some people saying that they wouldn't even drive another vehicle, that like they will only drive Teslas from here on out. But kind of wrapping up my concluding thoughts, I mean, I'm an old school person. I enjoy an engine. That's just who I am. Teslas are good cars, actually. They drive well, they're executed well, they go well, and they ride pretty good. And there's a bunch of space in here, and you never had to fill it up. And there's probably some government incentives or whatever. But oh, and there's no maintenance with this car. You know, that's another advantage of this thing. All it needs is like tires and brakes. And take advantage of Cary Imports kind of their warranty, because it's only like $2,700, and with the minimal amount of maintenance I had to do, and the fact that the battery is the only like expensive thing that needs to be replaced, you know, take advantage of that warranty and enjoy this car. Let me know down in the comment section if you've driven a Tesla, like how you feel, like would you consider buying one yourself? And that about does it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.